Good morning. Welcome to the National Naval Aviation Museum here in beautiful Pensacola, Florida for today's Read Across America 2025. I'll be your storybook reader today, Jarvis, and today we're going to be focusing on My Little Book, Golden Book of Airplanes by Michael Jewston. I'm stood here by the F-14 Tomcat, the air superiority fighter from 1974 to 2006. Let's just say it's a very familiar aircraft, and you'll see many familiar aircraft in this book. But one thing I will say is that we always have the potential of future aircraft. So let's begin. My little golden book about airplanes. For many thousands of years, people watched birds and wondered what it would be like to fly. And for hundreds of years, artists and inventors tried to find a way for people to do it. A little more than 100 years ago, their dreams finally came true. In 1913, two brothers named Wilbur and Orville Wright built an airplane out of spruce wood and took it to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, for a test flight. For 12 seconds, not very long, but long enough, the Wright brothers' plane flew 10 feet off the ground. Not very high, but high enough. As the first people to get a powered plane into the air, the brothers made history and changed travel forever. We have the A-1 Triad in our museum, very similar to the Wright brothers' plane. Perhaps a little too similar. It wasn't long before air shows, also called flying circuses, and for you British people, flying circuses, were presented to thousands of curious people. Bessie Coleman, the first African-American woman to earn a pilot's license, performed daring stunts called aerobatics in some of these shows. She even parachuted to the ground to give the crowd an extra thrill. No wonder her nicknames were Queen Bessie and Brave Bessie. One of the most famous moments in aviation history took place in 1927. Charles Lindbergh set not out to become the first pilot to fly solo, non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean. He even decided to fly without a radio or a parachute, so his plane would weigh less and his fuel would last longer. Many people thought he was foolish to attempt such a dangerous flight, but after flying for 33.5 hours, Lindbergh's plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, landed safely in Paris. Lindbergh instantly became an international hero, and there is even a dance named after him called the Lindy Hop, which I'm not going to try here. 5 years later, Amelia Earhart became the first woman to complete a solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean. For this feat, the United States Congress awarded her the Distinguished Flying Cross, usually rewarded to military aviators at the time. Amelia soon had a new goal, to become the first person to fly around the world. But in 1937, she and her plane vanished over the Pacific Ocean. Her plane has never been found. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, its military began to use airplanes for dangerous combat missions. And you can see here, we have an example of that in the museum. In World War II, saw even more fighter planes in the skies, such as the Hawker Hurricane, the Supermarine Spitfire, the Republic P-47D Thunderbolt, and the North American Aviation P-51D Mustang. To help boost pilot morale, cartoons, famous characters, and even sharks' teeth were often painted on the planes' noses. And you only have to look around the museum to see our planes have a lot of teeth. The first jet-powered airplane designed to carry passengers was the de Havilland Comet. It was built in 1949. The plane's engines were placed inside the wings rather than under them, so it could fly faster. Since then, airplane engines have been positioned under the wings or on the tail, and some are in both places. Jet planes can fly up to 50,000 feet in the air, so they require a special fuel that won't freeze in the cold temperatures experienced at that height. Now, the largest passenger plane is the Airbus A380. It has an upper deck that can carry up to 850 people and can fly for more than 17 hours without having to stopping to refuel. And the fastest passenger plane was the Concorde. It could hold as many as 100 passengers, fly up to 1,350 miles per hour, and get from New York to Paris in only 3 hours. I miss those days. But tickets for the Concorde were too expensive for most people, so it was taken out of service in 2003. Did you know that some planes can land on water? They're once used for difficult rescue missions. They're still used to fly passengers into hard-to-reach areas near bays or lakes, also islands. Here we go. The US Navy has flown many different kinds of planes over the years, not including the Tomcat, such as the FA-18s. They even take off and land on ships called aircraft carriers. That's what this museum is really all about, naval aviation. Because the runway of an aircraft carrier is only about 500 feet long, the FA-18 has a special tailhook to help it land. The tailhook catches a steel wire that's stretched across the ship's deck, which helps the plane to stop quickly. The B-2 Spirit, also known as the stealth bomber, was specially designed so to be nearly undetectable to enemy radar. It can also refuel in mid-air, thanks to another plane called a tanker aircraft. The tanker aircraft delivers fuel through a thick tube that extends from the back of the plane. This is an interesting question. Have you ever heard of the Blue Angels? Well, in Pensacola, we know them exceptionally well. This special group of pilots is made up of US Navy and Marine Corps aviators. They fly FA-18s, now the Super Hornets, that can travel up to 1,190 miles per hour. The Blue Angels perform for huge crowds out here on the flight line, creating daring formations and doing exciting mid-air tricks, such as high-speed passes, loops, and barrel rolls. In the future, technology will bring us planes that fly higher and faster than ever before. And maybe you will fly one of them. Thank you for listening to Storytime today here at the National Naval Aviation Museum. I'm currently here in Hangar Bay 1, and it's been a real pleasure. My name's been Jarvis. Remember, this year is a very special year, the 250th birthday for both the US Navy and the US Marine Corps. Semper Fi.